Um, the first thing I want to say is I want to welcome everyone for joining this illustrative session. I get an amazing kick out of these. I learn a lot. But more importantly, I think it's that we get the opportunity to share. And I think no one epitomizes that more than the person who I'm about to introduce. Dr. Katrina Polk came, I think I met her maybe 3 years ago when she first got wind of Water Infinity and the work that Sibley was attempting to do over in her community. She didn't wait for us to come to look for her. She came to look for us and has been a staunch advocate and team member and supporter of the work that we're trying to do, literally since the beginning. I'm amazed at her energy. For you who don't know her, she does her work with a group that I have a great admiration for, and that's our older folk, right? I'm a historian. For me, she is taking care of our treasure, right? She's been in geriatrics for a number of years. I urge you to go to her LinkedIn page and to engage and look at some of the things, some of the amazing work that she has done. But I think that we are incredibly fortunate today to have in front of us not only a friend, a colleague, and a person who have deep faith in the fact that we can do much better. I'd like to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Dr. Katrina Polk.
Hey, Stephen, thank you so much, Mr. Ragsdale. I was kind of confused. I was like, is he talking about me? But thank you so much for the acknowledgement. First of all, I would like to say welcome, and I'm going to use something that my great-great-grandmother would say on Sunday mornings when she would give the welcome address at church. She would say, "We welcome you once, we welcome you twice, we welcome you 3 times as part of this John Hopkins and Sibley production." So I want to thank everybody that actually is joining us today. We have a great lineup. We have a guest speaker by the name of Alicia Wilson, who serves as the Vice President for Economic Development for Johns Hopkins University and Johns Hopkins Health Systems as well. We have 3 panelists. She actually will be partaking in our fireside discussion. And then we'll have a panel discussion where we have John Ford, who's the anchor at CNBC, owner, and also the owner of Ford Media. We have Felicia Brown, who's the senior advisor at AARP. I had the actual honor of her interviewing me some months ago. We also have Kia Weatherspoon, who is the founder of Determined by Designs, who has a passion around community development, which I have a strong advocacy point with that. And we have the Playback Theater, who will be doing an actual presentation regarding verbal gymnastics. So I would like to welcome them as well as viewers, and I would just offer up a couple housekeeping items. If you have some questions, please put those into the chat. And if we have time, we will come back to those and answer those at the end of our session. But I wanted to talk just briefly about why networking. You know, our theme today is achieving more together, creating lasting networks, and why I deem that as being important. Networks are critical in terms of ongoing business development. And what I was taught a long time ago by Earl Graves Sr., back in the days where he was viable, because he has passed since then, since now, his focus was around relationship building. He didn't call it networking. That wasn't the term at that time. And it's really how we work in terms of business and how things get done, especially for Black women-owned businesses. That's what I am. That's the only category I know a whole bunch about. And what I do know in the last couple of years, Black women have started business at a higher percentile of others. However, we lack access to capital. So how we're going to navigate that space is by changing things up and networking. I always tell people your business is as good as your network is. So I started looking at networking from the perspective of how I deal with my personal and my professional. And that means that my network can't be self-serving. So what can I bring to the network is real critical to me. And with this network today, I'm hoping that this facilitate a conversation, help individuals receive some golden nuggets, and actually people go away with learning things, as I said. So anyway, we'll go right into the conversation, and I guess we'll be joined by Alicia Wilson. Hi.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to get to be interviewed by you, Dr. Kat, one of my favorite people.
Oh, really? Oh my God. And I was just saying the same thing about you. So great. Well, I would love for you to tell the audience a little bit about you and your work. Yeah. And if you could also talk about what has helped you elevate, in terms of network building and those different type of elements in your job that you do today.
Absolutely. So I'm Alicia Wilson. I'm Vice President for Economic Development for Johns Hopkins University and Johns Hopkins Health System. And so I oversee our economic inclusion, economic development, and economic innovation and strategy work for the enterprise. And my work is all about networks. And as I think about and reflect upon how am I effective in my work? How am I effective as a leader? It really is about I've been able to harness the power of the network. Dr. Kat, you probably wouldn't believe me. I think you might believe me on this. But since my first job was when I was 15 years old. And since that point, I applied for that job, filled out an application, had it so beautiful. 15, I've never applied for another job. All of the jobs that I've had over the course of my career have been through my network. And really, I think I was able to tap in early on the fact that networks are more powerful than almost any other force on this earth because they're rooted in relationships. And so just that sort of like as a cornerstone, something that I've been able to experience professionally and personally.
Well, that's great. Well, I do believe that because we didn't talk about this, but that's actually is my story. People come look for me based on a network, my network and things that I have facilitated previously. And the craziest thing, they will come and ask me to do a job that never existed, right? It'll be a brand new baby, and they say, oh, we entrust you with that. And that's the power of networking. When people have confidence in what you bring and you are actually doing what you say you're going to do, and in terms of how you created that, cultivated that relationship. So I totally understand that and appreciate that. I mean, I network with you, and you're part of my network as well. So I would like for you though now to kind of switch on a dime and talk about if a person is attempting to cultivate a relationship with a targeted network, how would they go about? What you would think in terms of approach?
Sure. So first of all, you have to make contact. But it's important not to confuse making contact with making a connection. So when you go to events, you go to meet people, you get the business card. That is a contact. You know how to reach them. But there are very few people that convert this into a connection. And so how do you do that? You first have to follow up. And that sounds really simple, but most people don't do that. They take the cards like they're about to make 52 in a deck and play spades, but they usually won't take the next step to connect. And you have to make a connection. So that whether that be coffee or lunch, I love face-to-face, but Zoom is also fine. And people have to get to know you in order to convert into a connection. And when you meet someone, you have to realize you can't reap where you haven't sown. You can't reap and sow on the same day. And you have to actually have the right attitude about why you're making contact. If it is all self-serving, I promise you, people will see it very quickly. Absolutely. And they will divorce themselves from that. People don't want to be connected with self-serving individuals. But when you are meeting with someone, if you're thinking about how can I add value to them? How can they add value to my network? And leave yourself out of it, really. And I promise you what's going to happen is you're going to have a ricochet effect of the goodness that you're thinking about. You know what, Dr. Kat, you talked about something. I know a foundation that I think might be a great funder for you. I don't get anything out of that. I like to make sure Dr. Kat is connected to a great funder. But the ricochet for me is that when you do well, now you are fortified and I can come to you and say, Dr. Kat, I got someone else that I need to connect you with. And I think most people don't think about it in that vein. You think about, I need to make that contact because I need to get this job or I need to get those things. And the problem is that conversion doesn't happen that fast. And so as you think about you targeting people, you can't target them when you want something. You have to target them because they are a good person, they have a work ethic, they have a value that you align with, and you should do that well in advance of when you ever might need to have your hand out and asking for something. And that just allows for the network and the connection to be strengthened because it will be undergirded by a relationship, which is the most powerful, that it is a must-have in the network that we're talking about.
Well, see, that's why you the master networker, right? Because all those key points you just laid out there. I was told at a young age that when you want to work or understand someone, you don't go with your bucket list of things you need from them. You offer yourself up as a service as well. So I start off most of my conversations with network. How can I help you better what you're doing? And I guess the old proverb in the side of my head that my grandma said, money will come, all that'll come. So just show up as a good person that's trying to be a resource to others. And that's an attraction. That's where people, like, oh, okay. Because I think everyone, especially when you go to networking events, they're on guard. They already know what we're here for. You're going to come, you're going to have an ask. Well, my ask is, how can I help you?
Yeah, that's true. And, Dr. Kat, I think a lot of people think, the first time I meet you, I got to rush it. You don't have to rush it. Once you have the contact, you don't have to rush the next connection. You don't have to rush it. Once you have the contact, the connection and the network and the relationship comes later. That happened all in one day.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens. People want to microwave things, right? We want instant gratification, and that's not how, especially with relationship building. And I always tell people, like, I really do parallel, there's that parallel between my personal and my profession. I do the same structure. Like, I don't want you in my business and in my face that quickly. Like, how do we have to, like one of my grandkids told me that we have to hold hands and make plans. I said, okay, we're going to do that. So that's how relationships, I guess, need to be developed. So, but I thank you for that response. But there was another, I know someone had a pressing question in the chat. I think I'm going to note that, but I'm gonna go back and look at my list and just want to get into more of an impact. Do you have maybe something you would like to share that was impactful and had an interesting outcome in terms of your networking interaction? You have anything to share with us?
So I will tell you that some of the greatest parts of my network have been young people. I mentor a lot of young people. And I think most people say, you know what, they just need stuff from us, right? When I'm mentoring, I'm just giving a lot away. And you don't know who's going to be in the room of opportunity when that door closes and is going to be able to speak on your name. And there is nothing more beautiful than a young person saying in a room, person that's motivating and inspiring me is the person who is giving back to me. The reason why I want to be a doctor or a lawyer is because of it's powerful. When a child tells me, list that name, those are the sort of people I want to be aligned with. And that has led me to jobs, to opportunities, to literally boards of directors, paying boards of directors from young people who most people would say, that's not part of my network. What can they do for me? The network is broad because you never know who could connect you to an opportunity. And if you have no agenda, I think you open yourself up to attracting really great things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I'm definitely a proponent of mentoring and also cultivating understanding around relationship building. Some of my best in terms of networking came from retirees that worked in other capacities, and said, "Hey, I got somebody I want you to meet." And really for me, I'd be so surprised, like, what? And I've been able to build a network really as the subtopic in terms of today's event. The event is that lasting networks, right? So you don't always tap into these people, but they're at your disposal, right? Because if you need them and you've actually managed and maintained that relationship well, things that happen. But I was having a conversation. I hate to switch gears around alignment. I actually saw somebody type something in the chat around alignment. And when I think about alignment and networking and what you were saying, is also knowing how you define your networks, right? For me, some of my networks, maybe I come together with them for reasons, seasons, and lifetimes, right? So I have a particular group where if I'm doing community impact, they're always on my list to do. And we have a subject matter interest, right? And then we have our, seasonal, where I might, work on different things between in the spring. In the summer, I do a lot of volunteering with youth. So I do summer camps. So, so just understanding what networks and how they're defined and how you utilize them, right? But you're friendly to them all, and try to keep in touch with them. You know what I mean? Let them know, share some things, or even inquire about what they're doing right now, what you're up to. Kind words to get you everywhere, as my grandmother would say.
That's great.
Okay, so we're getting right in this fireside chat. And do you have any golden nuggets that you want to share that could be a takeaway for someone and they can implement?
I think what individuals should do is, if you're saying, like, I want to network, I want to start building a network. Don't go for quantity, go for quality. And see, the network game isn't a quantity thing, it's quality. And you always need to keep that in your mind as you're building your network. You don't want everybody speaking on your name.
Absolutely.
You don't want everyone to say they're connected to you. And so you need to make sure you have some litmus test, values, character, all those things as a part of your network. But it has been a pleasure, Dr. Kat.
Well, it's been great. Well, we have a gentleman. Where's John at? I can't find you. Where are you at?
I'm right here.
Okay. I was hoping that you didn't disappear and I had to carry your part of the show. But no. So Alicia, this is John. John, introduce yourself and tell Alicia what you're getting ready to do as part of this process, the program today.
Okay, so hello, Miss Alicia Wilson. I've been listening intently, and it's great to know who you are. My name is John, and I use theater to play by people's stories. So we have a brief moment right now where do you give me permission to interview a little bit more, and we'll have a part of your story, some of what you've been saying, playback?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Okay, so one of the things that intrigued me was you said you got your first job when you were 15. What was that job?
I worked at a nonprofit law firm called the Public Justice Center.
Okay, and you said you got that first job, and then from there on out, like what did you do, or what skills did you go into that job with to then never have to get another job, always be referred or recommended for your next jobs?
So I observed when I would go to the board meetings for the nonprofit in the evening. I recognized that all these people who were contributing to an amazing organization, one, they all knew one another. Two, they all came with a passion and a depth and a breadth in the work. And I also recognized as the fact was that they didn't just meet one another, they knew one another over a long span of time. And it was at this moment that they all got to sit around the board table. And so for me, when I was 15, I didn't want to waste my moment. And so I was like, yeah, I'm 15, but I'm going to use this moment to gain the relationships so that when I get to the table and we're sitting around the board table, we all know one another for a long span of time.
And so who was the first person in that office you connected with? Where did that connection come from? So you were 15, you made this observation of these people, and then who did you connect with?
So the first person that I connected with was actually, he's a Congressman John Sarbanes.
Okay.
He was on the board and was connecting. Also Monique Dixon, she's now at the and so NAACP, legal defense.
Right. So this is my last question for you. You said you talked about a contact. So how did you make that contact with those people? You observed, and then how did you?
No. So I observed them, and then I say, "Can I take you to coffee?" And no money. And they would. I think I'm cute because I'm like no money, and I'm like very like out there. And they would end up paying for my coffee, but I tell them my story and I try to gain theirs.
Okay, cool. So do we have permission to play your story back, Miss Alicia?
I can't wait to see this.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
So I'm going to say, let's watch. I want you to stay on the screen, and then you'll see these fabulous actors that I brought with me to play back your story. So on the count of three, everybody, we're going to say, Alicia, let's watch.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Alicia, let's watch.
Alicia, let's.
This is my story. This is my song. I'm gonna sing it all day long.
As a 15-year-old, people don't always take me seriously. And you might not know what I'm doing, so I'm going to tell you. I'm planting seeds. And I'm tending those seeds very carefully. Because I know, even at 15 years old, these seeds are going to blossom one day.
It's growing, and I'm growing, connecting one part to one. I'm gonna get to know these people, and I'm gonna play my part.
You know, it's about us being together. It's been so hard sometimes for us to know each other over time, but just coffee. It's not the coffee itself. It's that we share something that's the same. Our passion, what we want for our families, what we want for the world. Would you share this with me?
Will you share your story? I want to know how we can build, not just here to ask of what I need, but how can I serve and grow together?
My name is Alicia's resume. and I'm so happy for her because she don't need me no more, but I'm sad for myself because I thought I was going to have other people coming ahead of me to help her get her jobs. But she don't need me no more. I mean, I'm so beautiful. I have all the dates and all the things. But she don't need me no more.
No longer knocking on doors of opportunity, 'cause doors are opening for me. I took the science of building relationships, and now we're growing. Yes, we are growing.
Well, thank you so much, performers. Alicia, can you unmute yourself?
Thank you. That was amazing.
What was that like? A little summary.
Everyone is so talented. That was really amazing.
Even your resume showed up.
Oh wow.
So,
I almost died laughing.
So what was that? What was that like? Briefly, can you tell us what that was like to watch your story come back to life?
It was so powerful because, you know, I never said it in the way that was depicted, but it was like you got to the essence and to the root of what I was saying in such a beautiful way. And so I applaud you all. You are phenomenal.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to pass this back over to Dr. Kat. We will be doing this live in July, so look out for email from Ward Infinity. And thank you so much for sharing your story, Alicia. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kat. We'll join you at the end of this presentation for maybe something else, okay?
Well, wait a minute. I got a mic drop. Bam, that was a mic drop. Thank you, John. Wow. I am so excited about seeing your work. I didn't have the opportunity. I wasn't in your cohort, John, but definitely like I chime in and actually agree with Alicia. It was amazing. It's phenomenal. So now as we transition, we're going to get into our panel discussion. And earlier, I introduced the panelists. One is John Ford, Felicia Brown, and Kia Weatherspoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited. I know all y'all in one way or another. So I'm definitely I'm actually in my glory, as my grandmother would say. So I would like for each one of you, I'm actually going to pose a question and I want you to kind of integrate it in with an introduction about yourself. So as you tell the viewers about who you are, tell us a story about how your networking that has impacted your journey as an entrepreneur, professional, business owner, whatever have you. So John, if you could take it away, I'd be grateful.
Sure. Well, my name is John Fort. Great to be here. Welcome, everybody. I am an anchor at CNBC, which is a business news channel, focuses a lot on the stock market, but I also do a lot of focus on entrepreneurialism and folks who aren't public companies yet, but who are building for the future. And I'd say that my biggest learning about networking has come over the past 3 years or so during the pandemic. I've been working on my own digital program on the side for a few years, but during the pandemic, I realized that my attitude about networking had been limiting me. I'm on TV, I seem outgoing, but I'm a natural introvert. And I think I grew up with a lot of people with that, hearing that phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And so networking always sounded like cheating. Like, okay, well, you can be so good, but if you don't know the right people, then you're not going to get to a certain level. My perspective on that has shifted. And I think it's what you know because of who you know, and it's who you know because of what you know. And that cycle builds on itself. What I realized during the pandemic is I was having a lot of conversations. I was never that natural at getting people's contact information and following up with it. It always seemed awkward to kind of reach out to somebody for no particular reason, just because I needed something. But what I found with my line of work is that when I write something that relates to the person, or that's about, that relates to a value that they have, or a mission they have, a project that they're working on, and even online, on LinkedIn, for example, if I tag them in that and make them part of a conversation, invite them to something later, it keeps a network fresh. So I would just add, networks support you financially, emotionally, educationally. Everybody's got a network, but not everybody has a healthy network. So in a way, think of a family as your original, hopefully healthy network, right? That provided for you financially, emotionally, educationally, and then connected you to other networks at church, at school, community groups, etc., that grew your perspective and hopefully grew you financially, educationally, emotionally. At a certain point, we've got to take control of that process, right, and grow it for ourselves. And when we do that successfully, we grow more quickly and we help others to grow more quickly as well.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, John, for that information. It was nuggets all in there. I hope people actually are taking copious notes. So, because one of the things I will attest to is that I've met a lot of individuals that are business owners that have money and have a plan and have no network, and they have went nowhere fast. So absolutely. Okay, so Felicia, introduce yourself and tell us how networking has impacted your journey.
Great. Thank you for the invitation, Dr. Kat. So I'm Felicia Brown, and I lead the entrepreneurship work here at AARP. And, I was pondering over this question, Dr. Kat, when I saw the briefing doc, and I was like, networking. And so, just by who I am, I'm an extrovert, but I am not very good at promoting myself. And so I don't know that my networking necessarily is very good. I think that, I connect with a lot of people, but I'm not always connecting the dots on how it could help me further my professional agenda. And so I was listening to John, and I think about, like, during the pandemic when we weren't able to connect with people, just by the nature of me being creative and being an extrovert, I noticed that my network was growing because my work was growing. And so it was kind of serendipitous, like I was working and people were noticing me, and people were saying, I've been noticing your work. And I was like, oh, you have? And not really recognizing that I was putting myself out there. And so my network really just kind of started growing without a whole lot of effort. And really a blessing, actually. And so I would say over the years, because I'm a people person, I've had opportunities to get details, to work in other AARP state offices, which of course helps to grow your resume. But really just because I'm creating these networks on a personal level, and not realizing that they're good for your professional network. So I want to say that, it's a part of being who you are. It helps your networking. Being a hard worker, showing up well, letting people know that you're showing up in an intentional way. Because you're passionate about what you do and you're passionate about people, that really kind of grows your network without unbeknownst to you. So I was listening to Alicia, and she has so many good nuggets. Like, a contact is not a connection. You have to work hard to turn that into a connection. Like, I never even thought about that, because I'm always out here networking, connecting, working. And then, a couple of years later, you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's a contact that I made a few years ago. That's not a connection, because I'm in the right space and place where I needed these networks to work on my behalf. So I think a lot of times they just happen. And you just got to always be ready.
Absolutely.
When they happen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. First of all, Miss Felicia, you are a master networker. And it's not by, like you said, in terms of, I think a lot of people look for connections through verbal confirmation, but you're networking through your products. Oh my God, all the interviews you have actually created on topics that are needed and the touch, actually how you touch people in that fashion, right? Directly, indirectly. So you are a master networker, so I ain't gonna let you slide on that one. But I'm gonna go over here and see what Kia has to say today.
Good afternoon, everyone. So Alicia, John, Felicia, Dr. Kat, the Verbal Gymnastics team, you already kind of dropped some gems. So I'm going to try and give my intro and bringing in some nuggets from what I heard to introduce myself. I'm a business owner. I'm an interior designer with a focus on design and equity. I am also a child of an addict. And when you are a child of an addict, there's constantly this inconsistency in your life, this lack of stability, and there is always this need to be seen, right? So as a child, with this kind of, upbringing, there was always this need for me to be seen by others. What I learned really early on is, it's gonna sound like an AB School After School special, just stay with me. But if I showed up as just myself, people would see me. And then I would try this thing of trying to use the King's English, button it up, be a little bit calmer. And then there wasn't these authentic connections. And when I transitioned to being a business owner, business 101, people have to like you to want to do business with you. And in order to do that, you have to show up as your whole self, not your work self, not professional Kia, not work Kia, because then I would be exhausted, just Kia. So for me, everything that I do when it comes to networking and mentoring and relationship building is I want to make sure I make way for other people at all times to feel seen, valued, a part of the conversation. And to do that, I know my strength is showing up as my whole self, which is that of a dynamic Black woman, which is the greatest superpower I had, showing up in every space and bringing other people along.
Wow, that was powerful. And and thank you all for being transparent. I appreciate it. I know the viewers do as well. One of the pieces that I struggled with for many, many years, Kia, was not, playing the role of multiple people when I sat down. And right now at 53, I'm sitting here in my hat and my sweat, my shirt, and I'm comfortable. And this is who I am. And I know people buy into a process, right? So either, you buy into my process and I show up authentic and genuine, or I don't want to work with you either. So that's just where we're at, and you have to be able to determine what the network you're building, how you're going to actually manage it, who's going to be in it, things of that nature. But thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate all of your responses. Another question, I know we always talk about barriers to networking, especially for minorities. I now want to kind of switch it around and talk about maybe identifying some tools and tips for overcoming barriers. When you talk about networking, and especially when seem like things are failing in a network, how do we reassure it, reconcile it, get it back to working, kind of walking in step? So Felicia, why don't you start off this time?
Sure. So I like what Kia said about showing up as your authentic self, and maybe asking yourself the question, would you want to work with yourself? Like, would you want to work with how you are showing up, and believe that people can see when you're not being authentic? Like, people can see through that. And so I think that one of the barriers, Dr. Kat, is sometimes we get in our own way. We oftentimes can overthink things instead of just kind of coming into the room, kind of taking a breath and really making sure that you have your intentions are pure, but knowing what your agenda is. And so I think another barrier too is, like, a lot of times people of color are not invited into these spaces where they can network for their businesses to thrive. And so I think that sometimes we have to create our own spaces. where we are inviting people who are often left out from the table to come and network and talk about their business and really ask for what they need. And so I am not a business owner, but in the work that I do, we support businesses. We are advocates, particularly for older business owners. And so we recognize that minority businesses they lack access to capital, they lack access to business opportunities, and they lack access to these spaces and places where they can talk about the needs of their business. And so sometimes, we have to create these spaces where we can be authentic, and we can network. I think about like a lot of these pop-ups that have happened in the past couple of years. You have to use those as opportunities to network with one another, because oftentimes in these pop-ups, we all look the same. They're all struggling as business owners. And what are these opportunities for you to create networks, for you to talk offline, or create these industry networks where you can talk real candidly about what your struggles are, and create opportunities to create solutions to networking, or the lack thereof of networking. And so, I got a whole list of places you can go, but I don't know that you're there yet. But those are some of the barriers. I'm gonna stick to it, but those are some of the barriers, I think, or these are some of the opportunities we have to seek out to overcome those barriers.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree. Thank you. Go ahead. Someone's going to say something.
I want to jump in on something. So I think, how do you overcome the obstacles, right? So this is some of the best networking advice I've ever got. Fly solo, go by yourself. I know that seems really challenging, especially if you're more of an introvert. This hack, I think it's kind of coming back. I'll think of a way to do it digitally. I'm an extrovert, but when I would go to an event, I would still be nervous to speak to people, right? I would always put my name badge on upside down, because 9 times out of 10, someone was going to say, hey, your name badge is upside down. I'd be like, oh, excuse me, I didn't know. But then it would give me an in to introduce myself. So it's that initial first introduction that I think sometimes even the most extroverted or introverted person, they struggle with. I would also do research on who was going to be attending an event first. So not to overcomplicate it, because I think one of the things Felicia said was sometimes we get in our own head and we overcomplicate. I always try to humanize people. Everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. I don't care what your title is, how far you're up on the food chain, but if you humanize them and start with something simple and authentic. I met my design idol just by saying, hi, my name is Kia and I loved your firm's work. You do not have to have the cure to all things to introduce yourself, but it does have to come from a place of authenticity, right? So I think these are ways you kind of remove the barriers. And then I will also say, don't be afraid to search for affinity groups. One of the best things I ever did as a business owner is I did research on who I wanted to do business with, and it was people who looked like me. So I started my business, and my business grew by doing business with people, Black people specifically, who looked like me. So I think those were a lot of the ways I've overcame networking and some of those immediate obstacles.
John, jump in here.
Okay, we're talking about tools. All that's great. I'll offer a couple. Number one, I think one of the most important things in networking is listening. So you got to figure out what motivates this person, why are they doing the work that they're doing, and what are their values? What do they believe? You find those points of intersection, that's where you can grow and really connect and network with this person, not just about the transactional, stuff about my business, your business, whatever, but what motivates you and what do you believe? That's what creates, I think, relationship over time. The other thing is a healthy network doesn't just consist of people who are at a higher level than you. It doesn't just consist of people who are on your level. It's also the people who you are mentoring, your mentees. So I would say, be sure to have a balanced network. Now, why is that? I think part of who you mentor, who you build into, reflects your values. And oftentimes you will find other people both at your level and at the level you want to get to who are also looking to build into that group. And if they see you doing that, it reflects your values and what you actually care about and what you're not directly getting anything out of in a way that just talking about it could not. If you're volunteering with a group of young people and somebody else is volunteering with that group of young people and gets to know what you're about, then they're going to value your values because you've demonstrated them in a way that you couldn't have otherwise. And then on the peer networking side, and I think this goes to something, Kia, that you were saying also indirectly. It's not just about people who are working on the same things that you're working on, but also people who share life experience with you or who are in your same geographic area. So, you know, just by networking with people who are in your geographic area or people who are outside of your geographic area who have similar life experience, you can build a better perspective. You can get smarter about the things you're working on by seeing them from different angles.
Absolutely,
So,
John.
and Dr.
Go
Kat, I
ahead.
want to add another thing. You
Go
know,
ahead, add it.
Listening to John, when you're networking, don't always think about what they can do for you, but what can you do for them? And so, you think about this barter system. So they're bringing something to the table, but what can you bring? And so it's not always that you can afford services, but if I can do this for you, what can you do this for me? I need a marketing, I need a social media person, but I'm good with accounting. And so you need an accountant, I need a social media person. So it's this whole, the bartering system, like what I'm bringing this to the table because I need you to bring this to the table. So that's how relationships work. It's not all, it's not one-sided. And so when people see that it's one-sided, they're a little hesitant about thinking about working with you or networking with you. And you don't want to get this reputation that you're in the business of taking and not giving.
Absolutely not. You're absolutely right.
So you gotta think about that. Go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
so it's funny you mentioned that, Felicia, because my first opportunity, I worked for a Service Employees International Union, and I was actually someone like working in the mailroom, not a little bit above the mailroom, but I was definitely not on the executive floor. So I was in the elevator one day and I just said hi to a woman. I didn't know who she was. I helped her with her packages to go up to the 5th floor. I knew she was an executive. Turned out she was an international vice president. She became my mentor, and she has now allowed me, by working with her in my 30s, I traveled to, 23 states and 2 countries and did a whole bunch of stuff. And now I have the opportunity to continue that service, right? Because it's about service. It's not necessarily about, like you said, you having some money or whatever. It's about building quality networks. So we're going to have to transition, but I want one sentence on how someone can sustain their relationship or their network. One advice, one piece of advice from each of y'all.
Continue to send handwritten notes.
Stay in contact. Like, don't let it appear that relationship or that network was for just what you needed at that moment.
Amen. All right, John.
I would say first you capture the contact, then you continue the contact, and then you convene that contact with others, and you represent your network and the value of it by bringing that person together with other people.
Hey, I like that. I ditto everything that everyone said here. And I thank you so much for this opportunity, but you don't go anywhere. We're going to bring John back in and the Playback Theater. Take it away, John.
Okay, hello everyone. You guys I have a whole bunch of notes over here that I can just show you from many of the things you guys shared, but we have a brief opportunity to use some playback again. So Kia, you said a few things to me that struck interest. Can I just talk to you for a second and we use some playback around?
You can always.
Okay, so you mentioned some of your techniques were like putting your name tag on upside down. You talked about writing these handwritten notes, because they had, there are these connecting things that happen. Can you share a pivotal time, very much like Dr. Cat was talking about in the elevator, where you met someone who then took you on this journey that you could not even fathom? Do you have a story like that you'd like to share with us?
Absolutely. So I talked about how I met my design idol very early in my career, and I don't like to use that word idol very loosely. So literally I said to her, "Hi, my name is Tia. I love your firm's work." And we stayed in contact. And this was, like early 2012. So I would literally send her handwritten notes every 6 months, because for me, it wasn't about asking something of her. It's just letting her know I'm thinking of you, I'm in contact, I'm letting you know what's going on with me. So I was able to maintain that relationship, sans asking for anything.
Okay.
And also not this idea of expecting something back, right? So when you send an email, you want a response back. Why didn't they respond? But I was just constantly planting these seeds of outreach. And then I would get nominations for things, and they would say, "Deborah Lloyd Forrest nominated you to sit on this national committee. Deborah Lloyd Forrest gave me your name." So for me, the networking and the handwritten note piece, it humanized our connection in a very digital, fast-paced world, saying, you know what, I want this to be an elongated relationship. And I'm sending this communication in a very old-fashioned and still very relevant way. Same thing goes, I encourage my mentees. You apply for a job, yes, you send a follow-up email, but then you also send a thank you note handwritten, because they might not get it in that moment that you send your digital piece, but it's waiting and they get it a week later. And then they're like, wow, this person took this extra step. And then you come back to the forefront of your mind, and then you get that outreach because you did something a little bit differently.
And so when did you discover this handwritten thing? Did someone write you a hand? Like, how did this idea come to you?
So I think my mother is a teacher. And she always critiqued my handwriting. She says I've written like a third grader my entire adult life. So I had this fear of actually writing. But again, earlier I said, I learned to show up as myself. And this idea, I wanted to say something authentic and honest to this person in a handwritten note and or form. So it just stuck with me. And it was also this way of getting over the fear of like, are they gonna think I'm not this because my handwriting is really messy? So I think it was the fear piece, and it was also the more humanized and simplified form of connection that I always gravitated to. So in COVID, right, I knew a bunch of people weren't in the office, but I was just sending out handwritten notes to everyone. So when they did come back to the office, they got something. And I probably got a dozen of like, yo, Kia, thank you for sending this note. We haven't been at the office for however long, but when I got it, it's the long play, not the instant gratification of the gift.
Cool. That's beautiful. So give me a title to this story that you shared with me. A one-word title, one sentence title, one sentence title.
A one sentence title. Care, connection, consistency.
Say it one more time.
Care, connection, and consistency.
You said hair?
Care. C-A-R-E.
Okay. Care, connection, and consistency.
Connection and consistency.
Okay. Care, connection, and consistency. On the count of three, we're going to say, Kia, let's watch, and we're going to have Aaron, Asali, and Gregory. Aaron, Asali, and Gregory. On the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Kia, let's watch.
I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter and make believe it came from you. I'm gonna write words oh so sweet, they're gonna knock you off your feet. A lot of kisses at the bottom. Ooh, you'd be glad you got them. I'm gonna write you a letter.
I'm the child of an addict, and my world is kind of unstable. And I've learned that I can stabilize my world by making an effort to be seen. And sometimes that looks like reaching out to other people, with a handwritten note. And sometimes that looks like humanizing people. But today, that looks like putting on my name tag upside down.
Hello, 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 hello. It's me you're looking for.
You know, I come to you and I go back from you. I come to you and I go back from you. This is like, they call me call and response. Call and response. We connect ourselves to each other. And it's a real connection. You know I'm here, and I know you're there. And I know you're going to be there. It's a call and response.
I am here. I am me, showing up in my authenticity. What's your story? I really like to know. Let's connect through these handwritten notes.
I am a letter. And Tia is writing some fabulous words on me. I love her handwriting, by the way. Where am I going to go today? Where am I going to be delivered today? Whose desk is going to experience my joy? Straight from the heart of Tia. Where am I going today, Tia? Where am I going today, Tia? Ooh. Open me.
Dear John, I care. Dear Jane, I want to connect. Dear world, it's about consistency. You and me, building something that we want to see. To whom it may concern, our friendship we will earn, and then along the way, we care, we connect, we create consistency. That's how we build a global family.
Thank you, performers. All right, Kia, pop back on.
Oh, that was glorious. Oh,
Thank you.
that was good.
Thank you. So briefly, what was it like? What was it like watching your story come back? What was it like?
I think it was very visceral. It's a whole body emotional experience. And especially to hear it translated through different versions of the art and the body and the movement. It was glorious. It was gloriously humanizing and authentic, and refreshing.
Cool. I hope you felt seen. This is a part of what we do. Again, with Sibley, we're doing this live next month, late July, so look out for it. I'm going to pass it back over to Dr. Kat. Thank you so much, Kia, for being a participant. All right.
Oh, thank you.
Hello. Hello? Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. John, thank you so much. Oh my God. I'm going to talk to you offline. But anyway, I thank everybody for participating in this actual discussion, whether you were listening, hopefully, or you are partaking in as a panelist or a guest speaker. I would hope that the audience knows at this particular point, you too can become a master networker. So with that to say, I would love to see you back. We have a part 2. Tentatively is scheduled for Tuesday, July 26th at Bus Boys and Poets here in Ward 8. Wait for the confirmation. We're going to try to host these actual conversations more often based on topics that the community shares. And I'm excited. Today was just the beginning of a great thing. Stephen, thank you so much for your presence. And I will just say, see you next time. Everybody have a good afternoon and enjoy your summer.
Katrina, I would like to say something. Thanks so much for inviting me to come. I was a little late because of a situation, but thank you so much. I'm just a senior. I have nothing to offer, but I love the young people, the young adults that was talking to you, and they all have something to offer. And to let them understand that God, just like he's on the mountain, he's in the valley too.
Amen, Miss Florestein. You are my, what do you mean? You're my greatest supporter. So what were you talking about? You don't have nothing to share. You have energy. Love you. I will talk to everybody soon.
Katrina, before they jump off the line, if there are any interesting topics that you'd like to hear about, please contact What Infinity program on our website. And we will look into supporting those conversations.
Okay, you heard it from Stephen Ragsdale. So there it goes. So please share your information, and we look forward to see you in June. Hopefully, as I said, tentatively scheduled for July 26th. Everyone, enjoy your summer. Happy 4th of July, and we'll be back soon.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.